an extra spiffy tonight.
Another day, bro. How you feeling, man?
Feel good. I feel at peace.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold statement coming from people like us.
Well, our definition of peace, or at least my definition of peace, yes.
Yeah. What's your definition of peace?
I mean, I don't think we have enough time to describe all that.
Yeah.
I guess in a nutshell, my definition of peace would be being in my own chaos. Instead of being in another person's world of chaos. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like the term that people like to use, disorganized, organized madness, controlled chaos, you know? I think that is a term that describes creatives very well, because let's just say, like, for example, I walk into your studio and I see you sitting there in your room working on a beat. You're a very oriented person, organized, and I would come in there and everything would be nice and spotless and clean. Everything's put, in a way where it's easy to understand. And you're working on the beat. And okay, myself, or a client might come in there and feel like, okay, this is cool, everything's organized, but in your mind and in your head, what's going on when you're creating something, it could be very chaotic, but you're very used to that, you know? And I feel like when I'm in my own space mentally, and I'm just filled with my own personal driven ideas and things going on, I feel comfortable there. Because I don't believe that a quiet mind can be a creative mind. At least not to the extent of being able to perform the task that we perform. Yeah. In our way.
I can relate. I just brought out that term to my wife the other day about the word control.
Yeah.
I feel like we get in chaos when we can't control the things around us. Our workloads, what affects our energies. And if we let life take the wheel and like whoever to bother us to take that wheel, that's when we feel out of place. Yeah. So you feel like you got a grip on things now?
I feel like, to an extent. Yeah. In my own way, Yeah. Yeah.
Sick, man.
Yeah. I recently started painting and creating again.
Okay.
It took me a long time to get back to that.
How long?
Ballpark estimate, probably. The last time I painted was my exhibition.
Which was like over 6 months ago?
Something like that, yeah. And even during that time, it was a chore. Because I had that deadline.
Right.
And within that week, I kind of just crunched out those paintings.
Grind mode.
Yeah, grind mode. And now, looking in hindsight, I can be honest about this because the exhibition is already over. I kind of forced those paintings out. It wasn't a natural process.
Yeah.
Because during the whole time of just the last few years building up to that point, it was very chaotic for me. Outside of my creative realm, inside of myself, there's a lot of like life craziness, right? And so I didn't have the fluidity of like creating passionately at my leisure. And when it came to the exhibition, I got very close to that deadline, and within a week I did 2 paintings, something like that, and for what it's worth, like, people could appreciate what it was and people liked it and stuff like that, but I didn't put the attention and care into it as much as I would have liked now, So now I get to paint. I sat down for the last 3 days. The time has become non-existent. It's just painting.
That's like back in young low days.
Yeah.
No deadlines.
just like doing it, you know.
Just doing it just to do it.
Yeah, it's cool because it helps me refocus, because through my work, and I'm sure this is the same for you in certain aspects, and to a lot of creatives who are watching this, is that through our work is what teaches us the most about ourselves, like how we go about doing our work, because we can have outside opinions and guidance or whatever it may be, and have all of these external voices give their opinions and input into us. But when we really do our work ourselves by ourselves, we know deep down inside if we are rushing, if we are focusing or not focused,
Cutting corners.
like we cannot hide that from ourselves, you know. And thankfully to this painting, I finished it in about 3 days, but I spent a lot of those hours and time wandering in my mind rather than sitting there and doing the technical part of the work.
Right.
And after like a first day and a half of that, I looked back and I was just like, man, why is it that I'm wandering off in my mind? What is going on here, you know? And I've been digesting that, you know, after the fact, and it's been helping me become more grounded, I would say, come back to myself. Yeah. So, but one of the things why I had a hard time committing to creating and drawing or painting or anything like that in the beginning was because I know my tendency is that I get lost into it, where like I shut out the world and time doesn't exist. I was sitting there from like 8 in the morning and it was already like 9 p.m. at night, and I just like, oh, where did the time go? And I'm still sitting there painting, you know? And because of life and responsibilities and things like that, before I knew that I couldn't do that. Not because I didn't, that's a huge factor of it. Not because I didn't want to necessarily, but a huge factor of it was because I knew that it was just gonna envelop all of my time, you know? And my personal, I guess, my outside life would have been completely non-existent, even if it was just only a little bit, you know? Yeah. So that's what I've been up to this, recently.
Thanks for sharing, bro. I do feel a sense of like lightness kind of exuding off of you.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the right word to use, exude. It's crazy. Those cameras don't have red lights on it like mine.
Yeah. You gotta trust.
Well, normally we have someone behind them, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, man.
So how about you? What's new?
Last week, I mean, obviously we talk every other day, but I've been on a fitness journey.
I love that.
You know. But last week I did drop the ball.
Okay.
What's crazy is Thanksgiving week I did not drop the ball, which is when most people drop the ball.
Yeah.
You know, they go back to the gym, you know, fat and ready. Right?
Okay.
That's a quote from Coach Murph.
Okay.
And I was like, no, not about to be me. But you know, for good reason. I think capacity was a thing. Both my kids got sick. Both my wife and I got sick. The kids had fevers. My wife and I just had like stuffy nose, a cough and whatnot. And so when they're sick, they don't sleep through the night. And, you know, to get them back to sleep, you know, one of us has to wake up and kind of get them back in the mood to go back to sleep, right? So, you know, texting Coach, I'm like, in the middle of the night, like, I'm not gonna make it, bro. You know?
That you knew.
I knew I was not gonna make it,
Yep.
you know, because if I'm waking up every like 2 hours, you know, I'm not gonna do the workout justice. You know, I don't want to just be over there mopping around, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, Coach and I, we work out together so much that it's cool that we reschedule here and there.
Yeah.
But deep down, I felt like I dropped the ball.
Okay.
Even though I was a little sick and not enough sleep and capacity and all that. And so I had like a day where my family and I went to Christmas in the park.
Okay.
And I was a little snappy.
Okay.
A little reactive.
Okay.
You know, obviously the intent of that going to Christmas in the park is as a family is to have fun, do this thing and that. But you know, if my capacity is low and I'm snappy, something's bothering me.
Yep.
And I I did take the weekend to recharge a little bit and just kind of like step away from everything.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I know every week we kind of got a little groove going, but I was really unhappy about the fact that I didn't work out last week. Worked out once instead of 4 times.
Okay.
But I tried to have a little bit of compassion on last night. I was like, you know what? It's okay. As long as you don't continue not working out.
Okay.
So that was one of the items that kind of like made me a little itchy inside.
Do you remember our conversation about the 3 people in the room?
Yes.
So
I did not apply that to this though.
Yeah. I feel like,
It
and
was
that's
like horse blinders was on.
sometimes because the person talking to you, that second person, they just talk so loud, or the voice or the words is just so impactful because it hurts, because it's something that's very personal to you. You know, something that you want to do so badly for whatever reasons. And so you're not listening to any other words, you're just listening to that guy, you know? You're like, oh man, that's right. But I'm glad that you added the third Mr. Compassion into it.
Yeah.
I try to talk a little bit to yourself, you know? I think having those 2 perspectives is it was good. Yeah, because from where I'm sitting, the way I see it, you actually came out winning. Rather than forcing yourself to go when you knew you didn't have the capacity, and you gave yourself some self-respect, and you respected Coach O, and you hit him up, and you texted him, told him couldn't go. You went about it responsibly. You didn't force yourself, because I feel like if you were tired from your children and your life responsibilities, and you forced yourself to go work out, and you went about your day, I think that snappiness would have been even worse.
Very interesting. When we talk about this 3-person conversation, and if one guy is so loud, how do you get that person to kind of tone down?
You let him finish what he's saying.
Okay.
You let him finish what he's saying all the way through, and you don't fight it. You let him completely listen it out and be like, okay, it's affecting me because, yeah, this situation that I'm in, I want to work out because I wanted to work out for a long time, or I wanted to do this for a long time, whatever. Like, that's why it's hurting me so much. That's why it's like, man, that's why I feel so defeated, because, yeah, they're right. I feel guilty now for whatever reasons, in any situation, right? And it's going to hurt. So you let it fully ride out and let it hurt. But also know that that is just one person talking to you. One perspective talking to you. One opinion from a very singular point of view. Speaking from one very singular emotion. You know, there's multiple aspects to you, that multiple parts of you that can live together. Different emotions, right? And that emotion, that guilt, that anger is talking to you. Okay, you're right. And it does affect me. Once he's done, you sit back and you're like, okay, now let's listen to what the other people have to say now. You know? And you can take it all into account, and from what you do, from what all the other people in the room talk, because it could be the next person could be the voice of compassion, the voice of kindness, the voice of encouragement. Like, hey, look, like, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe you did drop the ball because you could have done that, but you chose not to. But I don't think that's the fact. I don't think that's the case, because you wanted to go, but you had to take care of your children. Then you were too tired and you didn't want to come in there at 50% and half-ass the workout and waste people's time and waste your own time. And now when you look at it from there, like, okay, yeah, you're right too, you know? But if you knew deep down inside that, let's just say, for example, another scenario is that you knew you had to work out in the morning and you had obligations and you made promises, but then you were drunk and hungover.
Yeah, and then you make up some bullshit.
Then
Yeah.
guilt and anger, like, maybe kindness and generous is not too fair right now, you know? You have to live with that. Because I'm just bringing that up because I'm very guilty of that many times in my life, you know? But yes, so listening to different people in the room.
Thanks for the reminder, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes that voice be loud as fuck.
Yeah.
I think it was just extra itchy because, I feel like the fitness journey has always been not serious throughout my life.
Okay.
Right? And then, I've been 3 months in now.
Yes.
And building my way up towards a discipline. And I was just very afraid that I would get back to not.
Scary.
It's very scary because I enjoy it now.
Yep.
You
look great, by the way.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, energy's good.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was definitely not the highlight of what happened last week.
Okay.
But just something that I just find I was able to process by today.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, you did share with me a story last week, which brought me a lot of joy listening to and hearing about. But I think before we dive into that, we'll just start off with I want to say that it's important for ourselves to put into perspective and also to share with the people listening to this, whether that's our future children, our children right now, the people that we have in our lives that take their time out to listen to our podcast, because I know they're out there, is the origins of where we come from as creatives and where we work and how we work. Because, this is America, and this is especially here in California, it's a melting pot of different cultures. And you can have filmmakers and musicians, like a whole line of them, but coming from different backgrounds is going to inspire and grow in different ways, right? And for the people listening to this, they might come from very Americanized backgrounds and have a generation of different cultures that are more traditional to the Western society. But for people like refugees and first generation immigrants, children of immigrants, and family from immigrants, especially from Southeast Asia, we grew up firsthand seeing and knowing the difference between how we grew up and, let's say, compared to other people in the society who got to have more of a structure that was based here. I heard I was a part of a seminar, and the seminar was about selling things. Many years ago when I was younger, and one of the speakers there was Southeast Asian, and they said that the general statistic is that the most successful entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley or in California are all first generation immigrants. And as we talked about it as a group after, they're saying because of the need to push through, having very little or coming from a family where the generational traumas and the mindsets that are pushed down is like you either make it or you break it, and literally everything we do, especially when it comes to making money, right? And so it's a double-edged sword. To some people with that kind of pressure, they're not used to it, they don't normalize it, might break them. But if that fuel is put under you and you have that just kind of like flowing in your DNA, then you are a higher probability of succeeding. So that was the idea of the conversation. So I wanted to ask you, I know a fair amount about you, right? And we've had a lot of conversations, and I feel like even outside of the mountain of work that you have done in your life and the people that you've connected with and people you've inspired, right, to really kind of help paint this picture with our words about you and how you grew up, in our previous episodes, we talked about how you were a fly on the wall and watching your dad, something that was very inspiring, you know. He was a music producer at one point, right? And he recorded, and he was a musician, and having that dynamic in your life was such a huge blessing, at least that's the way I see it, right? To grow up with those, to grow up around creatives, especially from a father, right? And that whole part of it is very beautiful. Now I kind of want to see more of like what Dale's life was like, you know, so everyone can get a chance to see that a little bit better. So start off with growing up. How many siblings did you have?
7.
7 siblings.
There were 8 of us.
8 of you.
5 blood. 3 were adopted.
Yeah.
We all grew up together, so it was 8 of us total.
Under the same roof?
Not all the time.
Okay.
But here and there, yeah. So circus for sure. Out of the blood, I was the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did feel a sense of like, because my dad wasn't always around like that. He's always working Cambodia, Malaysia, wherever we were, and I was always either with my grandma or with my mom. So I always felt the sense of like, I mean, hence the bear, right? I had to be like the protector of everyone around us, whatever level that was, right? Make sure everyone got in the car, making sure, you know, everyone got picked up.
I love that.
You know, or, you know, if we were going out to eat, make sure everyone ate, you know, and it's almost like a tally, like, dun, 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 dun. Okay, now I can eat. You know, that was always my, I guess, DNA.
Well, what was the age gap between you and then your next closest sibling?
For the 5 of us,
Yeah.
it was every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So growing up in a household like that, so just imagine like 8 kids in one house, right?
Yeah.
I used to fantasize about having like that many brothers and sisters, you know, just wondering what that would be like, you know. But you know, as an adult now,
Yeah.
and you know, looking at kids and families and stuff like that, I can only imagine like it's probably pretty hectic. As far as inspiration, you being the oldest out of the blood, what can you remember any creative things that you guys would do together, or any experiences that would have inspired you creatively?
Kind of got to work our way there, but there's the common stigma of everyone wanting their kids to be, well, minority parents wanting their kids to be lawyers and doctors. And for a while, I believed it, right? I believed it almost to the point where I was about to take that test that every undergraduate has to take.
Okay.
And I remember, because at that point, that's what, 20 years of life by then? And I remember like the creativity part of it was almost suppressed because of that goal in mind.
Okay.
So it wasn't until way later, till like 16, 18, to where I started really getting the bug for creating.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But with my siblings, we all went to like, it's crazy because my dad enrolled all of us, typical Asian kids, right? All sort of instruments, right? My brother on the piano, I was on violin, my sister on piano, right? And I remember like, we're all at the mall, right? I was just walking, we all got out of that tutoring class. And I walk back and then you see like the guitar store, you know, which is in the violin and piano store, right?
What age is this?
12.
Okay.
Right? This is like a whole different vibe of kind of store, right? I mean, you think about it, right? Like we both love punk rock and rock growing up,
Absolutely.
right? You know that kind of vibe that is.
Yes.
Compared to like the classic piano violinist vibes, preppy, you know? And
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
and so I remember walking past and every day on the way back home, it's like a window shop moment, right? You look in, you know, dudes with long hair, fucking always have ripped fucking arms off
Yeah.
of their shirts.
Yeah. Did you look heavy metal?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I remember talking to my brother this actual conversation. I was like, man, do you think Bob will ever let me learn that? Right? And luckily for me, my mom was very supportive. and I told her, I'd expressed to her that, hey, we want to try a guitar. I think that's where because the violin piano wasn't sticking. Like, the hands weren't moving properly. I wasn't getting it. It wasn't organic enough. And I like to share this moment a lot because even though my other sibling was able to do that with me, he didn't stick through it. But I remember when I first got the chance to go in there, my first lesson, bro, it just came. Like, the fingers moved properly. Like, I was able to catch on what everything the tutor was saying. And that in the creative realm, I think that's when like the spark came up.
Okay. I love that. I know personally from playing guitar for a little bit too, that so growing up I had very like small, frail, fragile hands, and so picking up a guitar and trying to play it and play the notes and move my hands up along the frets, it was almost impossible for me to press down on the strings and stuff like that. So definitely learning guitar for me was not fluid in any way possible, and it was very hard for me to listen and make sense of what people were saying. So I can imagine like being more musically inclined and having just the background for it and moving through that process, like that must have been such a satisfying feeling, because you wanting to go do that and then being able to get the lesson,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
and what's crazy is like my dad also plays guitar. Very traditional Cambodian classic music, right?
Okay.
And
Acoustic
guitar.
Okay.
And this is one of the first times I remember him sharing his journey with guitars, because it was very, very different from mine. A lot of our communities come from like war-torn land.
Yes.
And for my dad's case, being basically like enrolled into the army and told to fight when he was a teenager, he was told to learn guitar so that he can play music for the camps.
That's badass.
And if not, they would kill him.
That's even more badass.
And guess what? My dad fucking learned it, right? And I was like, wow. And here I am standing in the mall.
Asking your mom.
Mom, can I learn guitar? But yeah, I think that makes it even more, I guess, the awareness level of how much of a blessing that is. Because they could have killed him, right? And I get the choice to learn it.
What was your dad's? Can you remember your dad's reaction when you asked him if you could start playing the guitar? How did it feel?
I remember it was a quick like, what? Why? And I'm sure it was a traumatic experience for him, right?
Absolutely.
Even though he's good at it, and I'm good at it now, But I think with the lawyer thing and the doctor thing and learning violin, piano, it's just the part of that, like, the generations before us saw that those little aspects of life is kind of what showed people successful. Like, if you were to be a lawyer, if you were to be a doctor, if you know how to play piano, violin. I think that's what they knew, like, the higher status Asians were doing. So that's all they had for like a lighthouse path. So I never had like a sense of like rebellion to like, why did I learn this shit? Like typical teenager in America, right? It's more so like I was always curious why I was never pushed on the things that I wanted. Why was I always pushed on all these other things?
So I think coming from a poor background, especially when you're living in the countryside or you're living in very slum areas, and things aren't easily accessible, like becoming a doctor, tools, helping people heal, the knowledge, being a lawyer, a part of a system that, can fix and judges people's lives to that extent, having that type of respect, and then having instruments and learning how to play and create music and express yourself without having to use words or hands, is considered, like you said, it's considered something of status, because especially for people who are, those things are so easily accessible, you might not pay any significance to it if you could just go down the street and do this, or have those things at a arm's reach at all times. But coming from our parents, looking at those things, they see it in high regard. It's like, oh man, like how hard was it for them to be able to maybe come across those type of things, or come and find those types of paths where they can get those types of educations, And I can see why your parents put an emphasis on those things. Yeah, definitely. In my assumption, I could understand it. Yeah.
I understand it now. Yeah. When I was younger, it was just like, why?
Yeah.
Just no closure at that time. And I get it now.
Yeah.
I've also been like a lot more aware this last decade of my life of what I have and what opportunities are there. And that's because I was curious and I asked our elders what happened, how they got here and stuff like that. For us to be even able to do what we want to do. For example, I talked to my wife's mom over the weekend. Just one-on-one, just like chopping it up with her. And all our elders have always like shared little items on how they got to America. But I was like, I dug deep, bro. And I do want to have a conversation with my mom and my grandma and my dad one day. Hopefully soon. Just to really hear the story. Instead of like, oh, you guys have it easy, right? I want to hear it, right? Because I know we have it easy, right? I know bits and pieces of our history, right? But my wife's mom said soldiers came, like you said, slums. For us, it was villages, right?
Yes.
And soldiers came, shot up a bunch of motherfuckers, straight up said, get out of here, right? And my wife's mom said she walked for 3 months. 3 months, dude. Walked, and in those 3 months, one set of clothes, rain or shine, no backpack, no shoes, walked for 3 months straight. Ate fruits, ate the bugs off of those fruit trees. Anything that was moving, she would try to catch. Ate that shit raw. Ducked in mud when the soldiers were passing by, running for your life. 3 months straight. And somehow, by the grace of God, she ended up in Thailand, where they were taken as refugees. The UN camps were there, right? And, I dug deep and I was like, so what was that like? You were alone. She didn't have her brothers or nothing with her. Because a lot of them didn't make it. So she was like, yeah, I got there. And that's when she met her husband. Because she's like, that camps were dangerous. Like bad stuff would happen at camp. Right? And there's scarce food, scarce roofs, everything was tent. In America, we camp for fun. Over there, they camp for real, And the UN had like applications to come to America. And she applied, but she didn't get access until 5 years in. So she was at a camp for 5 years, living the way she did. Luckily, she met her husband, had her first 2 kids there. But then she told me that when the papers came back, it was either go to France, go to Australia, or come to America. And then like Cambodians, like they've always heard of America, so she chose America. She took her ass to the Philippines for 6 months and put her in like her whole family in like English school, like get them up to speed. and then they flew to Texas first, Dallas, where there weren't a lot of Cambodians. But then they heard that Stockton, California had a lot of Cambodians. And to feel a part of the community, they moved over there. And started really settling down there. But, I bring all that up because my grandma had a similar story. My mom, obviously. My dad, more on the war side, but he definitely had a story. And it makes me realize, like, dude, like, some mornings when I feel like I don't have it in me, or like if I'm tired or whatnot, it gives me like that boost and be like, you know what? You can do this. Look how much ahead you are in life that you get to be able to do what you want every day like that. That kind of plays a big part in why I work so hard. You know, knowing that the path before us wasn't that easy.
So for the viewers who don't really know about the timeline, Dale's dad playing guitar for the camp and for the soldiers, and Dale's mother-in-law walking for 3 months. This is during the Vietnam War and Khmer Rouge times. Very, very hefty time in our history, with a lot of war going on and stuff like that. And our people in our homelands, in Cambodia and Vietnam during that time, it was all bad, to say the least, right? I've only seen in videos and heard stories about what Dale was talking about right now, where the Cambodian people had to leave their villages and walk for miles and stuff like that. Man, just to digest that for a little bit and to visualize that, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's it's already, I can only imagine, like, it's already hard living, trying to get resources and live in a village already, and then just having bombs and soldiers come and kill your people. I think being forced to move without, from the way I see it, any real human rights.
Yeah.
And just having everything stripped away from you, and having to come over here and take care of stuff like that. That's crazy. So you talked to her about that, and in contrast, let's say growing up over here compared to them, I feel like there's different levels of problems, because what they normalize as life for them before, maybe growing up as kids, they didn't really see things as problems. You know, you're just normal. Obviously, they have the things that we would see as problems for us right now, because it's not accustomed to our way of life right now. Obviously, would be problems looking back in hindsight. Right? But I feel like growing up over here, you have your fair share of your own problems. Like, sometimes it's not easy to learn and navigate through this society. Maybe not on like the physical end of it or the resourceful end, but there's still like things that you have to go through, because it's not like people aren't living on the streets and stuff over here, you know. But it's like its own dynamic, you know? But at the same time, those were like very war-driven times, you know? And can only imagine how difficult that was. Yeah. So going back, you also shared with me a story about your grandmother and how she came over. Is very similar. Do you want to share with the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, like 2 weeks ago, we celebrated her 79th birthday.
Yep.
And my aunt, she was able to throw a party for her, where, you know, it really shows her impact, because it was a surprise birthday party. That's the impact, because when she walked in and everyone yelled surprise, it was literally a sea of like 60, 70 people. like, look how big of a part of everyone's lives you were for all these people to show. You know, for one lady, you know, and that's her treat, right? All the branches, right? And yeah, she shared with me in the past that very similar to my mother-in-law. Oh, sorry, rewind. There was a moment in the party where the first dance kind of happened, where my aunt wanted to dance with my grandma, and they danced together. And the siblings, they also have a big family. They have like 8 siblings too. They were just standing around, and as they were dancing to like these like 80s pop, you know, eventually the siblings all came in and danced too. And they started hugging and swaying, and eventually like they all held hands and like kind of like locked in a circle around her, and just started swaying. And I started feeling some type of way where I was like, whoa, what's happening? It's not part of the script here. And I looked that way, my wife is crying. I looked that way, my cousin's girl is crying. This person's crying. I looked, my grandma, she's just like, what's happening, you know? Oh, and like, it's a part of the song that's like super impactful. And then she started breaking down in tears as they were circling her and like celebrating this woman, you know, her. And when I saw that, what I immediately thought of was like them stories that I was shared, you know, when I was younger, on how they all got it. Because it's a very similar story to my mother-in-law. They were pushed out of their villages, right? Like, you know, communist soldiers came and like, you know, if you're not part of our ways, get out. And you know, some people didn't make it. For example, her husband, my grandpa. He was an educator, math teacher. They got wind of that, took his ass, and they never saw him again. Right? And my grandma, you know, worrying about her kids because she has 8 too, and they fled with everybody else. And you know, these villages, they walk in groups, right? 60, 100 people, or something like that. And my grandma, you know, she would say that the 4 older ones, they're like early teens, right? Maybe a little younger, but they would walk in front of her. And then the 4 younger ones, who are between 0 and 10, you know, they're walking for miles and miles, and never-ending miles through all of this stuff happening in the war. And she would have one of them on her shoulder, one on the front, one on the back, and holding the other hand. One lady is carrying 5 kids with her, or 4 kids, sorry, and you know, they made it. You know, they made through the camps, through the refugee process, ended up in America under a sponsorship. Lived with this Hawaiian lady for a while just to get everyone on their feet. Shout out to her. But in that moment of my grandma at her birthday party being celebrated, and then the siblings circling around her holding hands, that's what I thought. That 50, 60, or maybe 50 years later, this is what she created. You know, she and all of them survived through all of that. And I know my uncles and aunts, half of them were too young to remember any of those things that happened, right? But that's what made me start get a little emotional. It's just like, it's a reminder, like, wow, like I said, the path before us wasn't easy.
Yeah. I'm visualizing in my head right now, your grandmother. It's a very sentimental vision that I have in my mind right now. But she's just in there watching all her children and her people, her family around her that she created. And now watching all her grandchildren around her too. Yeah, just dancing, creating a circle around her. Like, and you know, bringing up those memories, you know, the stories that they share with you. And I can only imagine, like, the feeling. Like, it must have been an emotional roller coaster, you know?
Especially for not preparing for that day.
Yes.
Like it being a surprise. And this is what you walk into.
That's big, man. That's big.
I visited her like 2 days after.
Yeah.
And she's getting to the age where she's big chilling, you know?
Yep.
Always on the couch. Just tending to her plants. A little fatigued and tired, you know, she's lived along. Right, and every now and then joking about how long she has left here. But yeah, I visited her like 2 days after. And dude, she was walking around. She was chippery, she was joking around with my kids, you know, and hugging them and making loud baby noises with them. I was like, what a resilient ass woman. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. I very much enjoy sharing that. What makes me, you know, those stories. Because we get lost in the everyday sometimes. It's nice to reflect on what we have and where we came from.
Dude, thank you for sharing. This is the second time I've heard that story. And it makes me super happy to hear that. You know? Just knowing that you have that sense of family and you guys all came together and you guys are close to the point where you guys come together to celebrate and share tears and laughter with each other, share stories with each other. Like, that's awesome. You know? That to have that creative background where your dad part of his musical career was a life or death situation, and I can see how waking up and seeing like the blessings of having the choice and just like wanting to do it passionately and just being able to ask your parents, which is great, and then compared to like you do this or you die. Like, man, that's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And his story, along with their whole family and all the Cambodian refugees who were affected and some who didn't make it. Thank God that you guys were. It's like that for everybody who's listening to this. You know, it's not just in the history books. It's not just something that you watched on TV on the History Channel. You know,
Actually, it's not really even in the history book.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember high school.
I think there was maybe like a paragraph in it.
Bro,
You know,
in like an entire textbook, Vietnam War was in a paragraph,
yeah.
and that was it. Maybe with a picture of the flag or some shit, and no mention of what happened in Cambodia. It was just, you know, catered to the American history.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just like, this is a lot heavier than how my parents and my elders shared. Why am I just here reading slow?
That's a beautiful thing. Now that when I'm thinking about it right now, is that, like we said, you look into history books, you're only gonna find as much as the person who created it wants you to know, or as much as they know, a reflection of their knowledge, right? But let's just say you talking to your grandma, just one person's life experience is like multiple books in one, if anything. No?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Not even that tiny paragraph would do it justice.
That's not even like a scratch on the surface, you know? And I feel like that's amazing because a lot of your work is storytelling, a portion of it, right? And you being able to come from this rich background, rich with experience, you know? It builds character. The more that you absorb and the more that you feel it into your work, it just makes it that much stronger, especially when people get to know who you are as a person. People people get to know you like how I, you know. And when people see that, it makes, I feel like you have really no choice but to respect it even more and understanding that, you know, because obviously the more that you learn more about yourself and the more stories that are shared with you, the more that you dive into it with the people in your family, I could see how it could develop a stronger sense of pride inside. You know what I mean? Like
And purpose.
Because they say, a great philosopher once said that the deeper that you understand your past is the clearer the future becomes. So if you ever don't know where to go and you get lost along the way, look backwards.
Never heard that.
The stronger the roots, the taller the tree.
Yeah. Wow.
Man, I still can't, not that I'm trying to, but like, I still have that image in my head of your grandma just like sitting in the circle and like people dancing around her.
We got it on camera. We got it on camera.
Man, I wish I could do that for my mom one day. If I could have a whole bunch of grandchildren, just have them do that for her. You know, if we're blessed enough to have an experience like that. You know, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Very solid, like, I'm gonna butcher the way I say this, but like, it cemented my feet into the ground.
Love that.
You know, I mean, you and I talk all the time, so it's like we know like our minds can take us to places, you know, of doubt, guilt, and uncertainty and all that stuff. But when your feet are cemented in the ground, it feels a lot more like, you know what? We did make it, you know, or at least light at the end of the tunnel, because at least you know your strength is there.
Dude, I love that. As much as we could go into these places, different places in our heads, places of doubt, these conversations of guilt and maybe a lack of self-acceptance, being able to stretch your history back and seeing where you are today because of the sacrifices and experiences that your folks got to go through. Fuck yeah, you made it, dude! Like, yeah. And that just helps underline the importance of why you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. The only person that you should compare yourself to is your bloodline that's passed it behind you, that built you who you are today. I mean, that might not, sometimes in some situations, might not be a healthy way of looking at it either. But
then at least you can see, right?
Yes.
See the differences,
Yes.
And what could have been. Oftentimes I joke with my wife, like, what if the person Dale, was in that situation back in, war-torn lands? How would we respond to said soldiers that said, "Get the fuck out or I'll kill you"?
I have an idea, but it's probably, but it would be easy for me to say that not being in that situation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're both jokesters too, So like, what the fuck you mean, dog? You get out of here. But no. Yeah, man.
You know what's funny? I'm pretty sure some villagers did say that. And they were stubborn,
Yeah.
Or proud.
Yeah.
Respect to them, though. Respect to them. They probably didn't have kids. Or maybe they did, who knows, right? Just playing that scenario in your head, though. Like, being in those situations. Damn.
Yeah.
Man, Because you can't do that over here. You have riots over here, and things like that, protests and things like that.
Yeah.
To a degree, at least, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least this time
in
our lives.
yeah.
Yeah. 200 years ago, it was a little different too out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. So, your grandma walking, coming over here, getting the papers. They stayed in Hawaii. That housed them for a little bit. Then they came to the States.
They came to the States and lived with a Hawaiian lady.
And lived with a Hawaiian lady.
In Santa Clara.
In Santa Clara. Okay. Let's talk about, because I would like to know this too. Let's talk about after that fact. Growing up over here, what was it like?
Me?
Your perspective. I'm saying from like the ages of 0 to the ages of 12 before you touched that car.
I had a fun childhood, for sure. And that childhood was oblivious to what the elders went through. You know, that childhood was being driven, you know, bold and underlined, driven to school, where lunch is provided and breakfast is provided, and you get to learn in a safe environment, and then you get picked up, and down the street there's a 7-Eleven for a Slurpee, let alone McDonald's for a McChicken.
Okay.
You know, and like, I had my first very, very early childhood was definitely fun. A lot of good memories with like my grandma, you know, my family, my uncles, my aunts. At least the stuff that I chose to remember. You know, I don't know if this relates, but my dad oftentimes reminds me of like when he arrived here. It's a little different for him, because you know, my mother-in-law went to an English school in the Philippines, and they came here. So she had the language, right? My mom's family was housed by a sponsored lady for them to get on their feet, right? My dad was different. He mentioned that. You know when you drive on the 101 and you go up towards San Francisco, you see that big airfield?
Yes.
That's where he got dropped off.
Nice, first class. Okay.
And then for my dad and his two buddies, they barely spoke English. And my dad literally said, with like a couple bucks to their name, when they were dropped off, the gate was opened. They're like, go live. No one picked them up. They had no car, nowhere to go. The thought of a motel, what the fuck is that? It's just him and his two buddies. Gates open and they walked out. And like, okay, now it's time to go live. And they somehow made it, put it together. And that oftentimes like reminds me like, dog, get off your ass.
Man, imagine the hustle. Imagine what you had to do.
Not knowing English.
Yes.
In a foreign place that you've never ever been to. You don't even know what down the block looks like. You know, and then society pressuring you because you don't fit in. You don't have a place to stay. You know, it's just you and your two buddies. And they made it out. You know, they found the communities, they opened up businesses. That's some hustle, man.
Started a family. Yeah.
Yeah. Still find a way to, you know, go croon some women and date and start a family in the midst of all this bullshit.
The power, man, of, well, obviously, I don't know the full dynamics and all of the details, right?
Yeah.
But just like as an assumption and visualizing it, dude, what a blessing it is. And I know some people that I've talked to in recent years, you know, they have a lot of negative things to say about her, and like the politics and, you know, the lobbying and things like that. I understand where they're coming from, but coming from Southeast Asian immigrant minority families, you know, I have been back to Vietnam, and you know, growing up, I hear nothing but stories about being in the slums, and the amenities and and things that's offered over here. Even having a hospital over here, or a place to go, like a homeless shelter, you know. Back home, in our countries, those things are like unheard.
Yeah.
Especially in Cambodia, I could imagine. Whereas like during that time, mostly village dominant, you know. It's like, what the fuck is a homeless shelter, you know? And the resources that is offered over here, especially to our parents, and from your dad's story and stuff like that, not to undermine the difficulty that he went through, but like what a blessing all around, you know. I commend him. Do you remember any specific details of him coming up over here that stick out to you? Like any challenges that he went through?
About that?
Yes.
Definitely that one in the airfield.
Yeah.
You know, because that really set the tone for like our dynamic and like the mindset that was passed on to me at least. Of like, you know, go out and earn it. You know, nothing's handed to you, nothing's given to you. You're responsible for you. Be accountable. No one owes you anything. Nobody. You know, and it's, I don't know why I'm thinking about this right now, but like we talk about like the villages and the slums and access to hospitals and stuff. And here we are, 2024. Everybody we know is laced up with a smartphone, with access to maps, Lyft. A car will be summoned upon you to pick you up and take you to where you need to go.
A car will be summoned. Oh, dude, you're fucking absolutely right.
To like, just to think like what they all went through, walking barefoot for months, dodging bullets, being threatened, their lives threatened, and here we could do this shit.
Dude, man, that is crazy. The fucking, see, compare those two things, man. Like, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's one thing that trips me out nowadays with people, and I'm talking about generations before us and these generations after us. You know, I talk to a lot of youngsters, and a lot of them ask me, and sometimes I almost laugh in their face with this question. Not to say that they're stupid or anything like that, right? But they ask me like, man, I wish I could make some money. And like, how do I make some money? You know what I mean? And I look at them and I'm like, man, if I have to spell it out for you, let's just talk about the basics here.
Yeah.
You have a car. Yeah, you have a healthy body.
You have your phones.
And then you have the most powerful tool ever created in mankind is your fucking smartphone in your pocket. That gives you free information, gives you all the locations of things.
Tutorials.
Yeah, videos.
Free tutorials at that.
Community forums and social media. Like, if you can't connect all these pieces together, then like, yeah, life's gonna be a lot more difficult than that. But some people need guidance, right? And I'm just saying that out of a joking way, but and being a creative, I think, for myself, it's like I'm stuck just searching up non-stop knowledge on my phone, or even on my computer, you know, which could be unhealthy sometimes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's crazy to think that before people had to walk across the earth to get one single message to another person. And now you can send them videos of what you need to talk about.
Instantly. Fuck.
Wow. That's mind blowing though, you know?
And you know that was only 40 years ago too.
Yeah. What a time to life. Yeah. You're right, it is a blessing.
Yeah. the tools we were given. You know, what's our excuse? If they can do what they did, you know, and persevere through what they were given, maybe we can work a little harder.
We could definitely make more of the resources presented in front of us.
Right.
You know, utilizing it. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you mind sharing about the new space. Would you say now, after this conversation and the celebration with your grandma and everything like that, and because I'm taking that you have been reflecting on these ideas of the past and your heritage and family line and experiences, it's been seeping deeper on your mind as of recent.
For sure.
Yeah. So moving towards, let's say, like your dad opening up his first business and having to come up off the street straight up, like literally, and now you making transitions into furthering business and things like that. How does reflecting on these past experiences solidify your resolve?
Well, for the viewers, a little context. I am coming up on 8 years of doing this career full time, not part time. One foot in one door, one foot out the other. As a creative, I've been into music and creativity my whole life, but 8 years is coming up, and in that 8 years, I have rented for 7. Because year 6, like 1 year at a different spot, and we're in Silicon Valley. Things are a little pricey out here, but I was, somehow aligned with an opportunity to get a warehouse within budget, and a reasonable budget at that. And that warehouse has been a dream of mine for years. I'm hoping it's not an ego thing, but I think what I imagine the studio to be able to do, with building sets and having specific corners for podcasting and, state-of-the-art recording studios and stuff like that, that's just always been a dream of mine. And for once, in these last few years, it's in arm's reach. You feel, I can taste it, you can smell it, right? And with every business, it's about managing your money. Man, can you play with the money? Can you have a model in place to where you're not working every hat in the kitchen, right? And I think that's what kind of shook me a little bit when this opportunity presented itself. I started doubting, I started freaking out, and anxiety, like, oh, can I handle the extra overhead even though it was only a couple $100? Might be able to spend that much eating out sometimes, right? But I was just like, can I handle it? And this week is 3 months of now entertaining those thoughts. 3 months of, letting these things marinate. But this week I am setting on a meeting with the landlord to kind of finalize negotiations for paperwork. And, if all the numbers and whatnot make sense, I'm gonna sign those papers. But it's crazy because 3 months ago, in the wind that was blowing on me of a tree, my roots were strong, but then branches were flying off, the leaves were flying off, and this tree starting to strip down, right? But I feel like with fitness, with reflecting on our heritage and remembering my DNA, remembering what I'm built to do, remembering what I have, what I was blessed at, right? I do feel like this tree did not fall, right? Like you said, the roots were strong. And like I mentioned earlier, I do feel like these roots are cemented. And I feel a lot more energized and hopeful that this is all going to work out because I know what I can do. And it's like superhero, unleashing. Energy comes out. I don't watch cartoons with the whole Goku thing.
Goku, Dragon Ball Zero.
Sorry,
Okay.
anime. No disrespect.
Yeah. Personal statement here. I am fucking beyond stoked. Making that transition and growing and moving forward. Because we have had conversations about this, you know?
The unknown.
The unknown, yeah. And then moving forward and just you sharing your ideas with me, you know? And I always enjoy hearing what your dreams are, you know? What your visions are, down to the last detail. Like, oh, you envision this happening, you envision this happening. And for as long as I have known you, I remember the first time was when we did the first small video at my first private shop. And then you were telling me about, yeah, one day when the people come in, I want them to have a room where they can see their video and premiere and all these type of things. I remember that.
Yeah, wow. Good memory, bro.
Yeah. And I was like, man, that's so sick. And me, I'm just like in my little shop, and I'm like, damn, that's so sick. You know, hearing that. And at that moment in time, I was like, I didn't even know the scale of like what was possible. I know nothing about music production like that or video production, you know. Just got draws and stuff, you know. And I was sitting there, and as you're telling me this, I was like, dude, you're so sick. It's badass. And actually envisioning it in my head. And then now, fast fucking forward, now to this moment in time. And as you were like, especially within these past few months where you were talking to me about the new shop and things like that moving forward, you're like immensely, in a way you had kind of been like, should I do it? Should I do it? And in my head, I just keep thinking back like, no, you should do it, bro. Because that, I got to watch this whole vision like sprout into something, you know? And from the bleachers, right? Or actually, you know, side by side.
Yeah.
You know?
Courtside, bro.
Courtside seats.
Yeah.
And that's from my perspective, you know? Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't that crazy? It's like,
what year was that your shop?
It's probably 2019, 2020. I think.
So like 4 years ago? Time flies, bro. Time flies. Yeah. I don't voice my dreams a lot to people. You know, sometimes I feel like it like waters it down when a lot is said but not a lot of action is done.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I only share it with people who I feel safe sharing it around. But yeah, I have been dreaming about this for some good years now. I'm a dreamer, just like you know, we're both builders. We like to tinker with things, you know, and this is that next part of the unknown that I'm ready for.
So sick. To have a whole warehouse capacity to build, create, be more of you, you know? You know, a problem that I run into not even just with like tangible life objectives, but what I've noticed is for myself, a creative mental obstacle that I go through is I ruminate and I dwell and I run laps around a specific problem that I'm telling myself that I have. It's even something that I've already accomplished and moved past years ago. I'm talking about like at my childhood. And as I come up to, let's say like drawing or paint, if I haven't done it in a while, and I'll go up to a project, and it'll be a new project. It never fails. Some of these old childhood insecurities and doubts and failures, like, man, like, am I gonna be able to draw this? Or like, man, am I gonna be able to put these things in the right place? Like, what if I don't like it? And then these are problems that I had since I was a kid that I still dwell on as an adult mentally. And after a certain amount of time, when I actually get into my project, like I would say maybe after the structure is laid out, or I get to a certain point where I can start really seeing the vision of what I'm doing. That's when I take a break and I sit there and talk to myself, and I'm like, why the hell am I thinking these things? Why do I keep running in circles and not allowing myself to just move forward with it, and then just do what I do best, and then create, and then absorb more knowledge, and have this freedom of expression. I realized that I think there's, from what I can decipher right now, there's two parts to it. First one is that, let's say I'm standing in the street, ready to go, ready to find my path, but I feel better putting myself under the fucking manhole and just hiding it down there with the doubts and insecurities, because it's more familiar. That's one part, right? The other part is that I put this failure thing inside of my head so that I don't let myself down when I do fail, right? And that's like a defense mechanism that I personally have, and I feel like a lot of people have that too. They're just like, oh, am I gonna be able to do it? Fuck it, I'm probably not gonna be able to do it good anyways, but let me just go do it anyways, and even if it doesn't work out, then I'll be all right, those are two mental mechanisms that I've had ever since I was a kid. And now as an adult, as a kid I couldn't snap out of it until, like, you're talking about 20 something years later, until you do something where it's like, oh man, I'm proud of myself, right? And so those feelings, like, they still linger inside of me. Not as crazy though, because I could, like, mentally check myself on it. And I feel like no matter how far we get into our paths and our careers, regardless of the skills acquired, the experience had, or anything like that, those insecurities or mental obstacles that we put on ourselves is still going to linger. But if we keep dwelling on those things and holding on to them and feeling comfortable in that, right, it's going to hinder us from sprouting forward. It's almost like, I hate to say this, but it's almost like a disease that's killing your tree. It's like, if you don't fully eradicate that disease out of you, that poisonous thoughts, because we know how deep anxieties and insecurities can get, and anger, and how, like, quickly that shit can flood out, if we don't nip it at the bud or cure it right when it starts, and you try to mix that in with your growth, you're not going to grow into something strong. You're not going to be able to create something pure and honest, because now you have a ratio of the poison and the growth. And so starting fresh on a project, where I'm going with this is, I finished one project, one painting, and now I just started a new one. And I'm trying to go into this brand new one without even thinking about painting. And just doing it, like, and I think it goes deeper, because you're gonna need to, like, cleanse out a lot of stuff. But that's what I visualize and think about when you're sharing your story. And what we're thinking about it right now. And to put it all together, what I'm trying to tell you is, don't look back. We spent all of these years talking to each other as brothers, and walking down this path and being transparent and honest with each other, and all of the experiences that you got to go through with talking to your family, and the lifetime you had with them, and with your children, and all of the spiritual battles that you had to go through yourself, and the person that you are today, fitness, being open, being transparent, working on passion projects, growing as a person. I see you take that shit, bro. Don't even fucking expect. don't even think about what I can't do. It's like, what can I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you said, like
Shoot so
don't let
much.
that those kid thoughts remain.
Yes.
You know, we've proven that we can do things. So why are we still giving that thought power?
Exactly. It's yeah. Especially don't let it like ever interfere with the can I do it. You know, because as soon as the can I do it comes into play and it mixes into the pool of creativity, I think it just if it's left unsupervised and unmanaged, it could easily quickly take over.
Oh yeah.
You know. Yeah. So, but dude, it's pretty badass.
Thanks for that perspective, man. I had to go through the motions a little bit.
Yeah.
Had my own version of trying to shake that off. You know, I will. We are coming to the end of the episode today, but I would like to end it with a genuine thank you for being in my life. No, we talk all the time, so we already know. But like it's times like this where it helps to have you in my corner to remember the things that I need to remember and to level me out, calm me down, and not let those feelings take over. And so I'm very thankful for it.
Good luck, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
I wanna say thank you to you, brother, for sharing your story and for sharing it with me and allowing me to be in your life, because man, I'm a hermit crab, a wolf in a den, and I lived like that for a very long time. And I have, even especially these past few years, I have very little outside contact with like anybody, So the highlight of my week is always coming by and seeing if you're here and talking to you and listening to all the great things that's happening with your kids and with your family and all the stories you share. Because I have quite an imagination. So you sharing those things, like it brings me a great joy, and it fills up my imagination with very, very pleasant things rather than the other things that go on. So I'm very grateful for you to be in my life, and yeah, like I was saying, how hard you have worked to just be more aware and understand yourself, and accountability and things like that. Like those things is not, maybe now you can say it a little bit easier and navigate through these words a little bit better. But in the beginning, like, what the fuck does any of this mean? It was so hard to start fucking chipping down that rock, And I'm very grateful that where I'm at my point in my life right now. If somebody offered me $5-10 million, dude, to take that and then go back to how I was living before, I would not. Because I worked too fucking hard, bro, to like be sober and start working through these things of accountability. And I would not have been able to do that without you. I would not be able to be where I'm at in a safe place and rework on myself and have a platform like this and sit with my buddy to share about my life and stuff and hear about his. I wouldn't have that, bro, And that is a blessing. And you are a blessing, bro. Thank you.
I think that's why we work, bro.
Yeah.
How many people have we met over the years who, we're very fortunate to have a dynamic between us like that. Yeah. Somehow the universe got us on that path together.
Oh, dude, man, like, It's so sick because like our careers and our lives like converged, and then we saw this path, and then like, man, I cannot wait to see what's gonna happen, dude. Especially with this bigger space, man, and all the ideas, you know, if everything goes through. But eventually, yeah. Man, movies, babe, movies.
It's on the way.
Okay, brother.
Let's call it a day.
Call it a day.